All right, thanks for everybody for tuning in today. My name is Grant Otten. I'm joined today by Mick Spencer. Mick, how are you doing?
Doing great, Grant. Always a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you.
So we're going to ask you some questions. I'm curious. I've been hearing about a program called Empowering Nebraska's Tomorrow. Can we talk a little bit about that? Can you share some information with me on that program?
Absolutely. Empowering Nebraska's Tomorrow is a program that all of us are going to be hearing more about over the next coming months in different venues. And at a high level, it includes the new generation projects that we're adding, along with the transmission required to interconnect those new transmission or those new generation projects to the grid, as well as all of the load that's coming into our system. And then also the second license extension at Cooper Nuclear Station.
When you look at all those projects, which is a lot, it really does encompass, the program encompasses that, I think, well, and it is pretty powerful. Can you kind of take it a step further, know what that means for us?
Sure. You know, we have just a fantastic fleet of generation. It's highly reliable, it's flexible. We look at Empowering Nebraska's Tomorrow, it's the next steps. We want that existing fleet to continue on into the future, and it will. It's served our customers well, and it'll continue to do so. We're at that point where we need to add generating capacity in order to serve the new load that's coming into our area.
How did the NPPD determine the need for new generation, the projects that we're working on, and how do you analyze resource adequacy, the stuff we have now and looking into the future?
I want to go back a little bit in history. If we look back to 2022, and we were projecting when might we need to have our next generating resource. And the answer was based on the historic organic load growth, probably within 10 years, plus or minus. That was even as late as December 2022. Fast forward to January timeframe in 2023, and we started seeing tremendous interest in prospective new customers coming into the Nebraska NPPD service territory. It was very fast. So at that point, we started looking at our accredited generating capacity compared to those new loads that wanted to come in, and it was pretty clear that we needed to start building sooner, much sooner, like as fast as we could, in order to meet that need.
That process has been fast-paced, and I think the team has been working extremely hard on it, and a lot of it's behind the scenes. People don't get to see everything that the team that is involved in this is doing, but it's going really fast, and especially for these types of projects, our team have had to take on a lot to make this work. When we look at, again, resource adequacy, I've seen a chart that you've used, and it's changed over time, I think, as you guys have had the new loads and worked through this process. And it talks about resource adequacy for summer scenarios. Can you explain a little bit about the vertical bars when we're looking at this chart?
So start with the blue bars. The blue bars are our existing resources. That's Cooper, Gentleman, Sheldon, Beatrice, the Peakers, etc. The green bar, which is right on top of the blue bar in the first few years, the green bar, those bars are our capacity purchases. For the most part, short-term capacity purchases with another counterparty. And then the red bar, those are the resources that we've planned at the Princeton Road Station. So it's 2 combustion turbines, nominal 239 megawatts each, plus 216 megawatts of reciprocating internal combustion engines, 12 engines. So those are those resources in the red bar. And then the purple bars, you'll see variegated purple, darker to medium to lighter purple. Those are 3 combustion turbines that we're planning at the Beatrice Power Station. Again, nominal 230 megawatts each.
Okay, so then as we're looking at this chart, you see net peak demand and net peak demand plus load growth there. Those are easy to understand, but then we're looking at the solid black line. Can you describe what that solid black line represents across the chart?
Sure, actually I'm going to drop back to the dashed blue and purple lines to be able to explain the solid black line. The dashed blue line is the net peak. That may be confusing for folks who know what our anytime summer peak is. And they'll say, well, it's over 3,000 megawatts, 3,088 megawatts. Why is it starting out there at 2550? Well, it's a net peak, and so that is net, the peak net of our WAPA purchases, which is our WAPA allocation, Western Area Power Administration, as well as demand response. That's important because when we look at the black line is our net peak plus the expected loads, which is where the purple line comes in. It's the net peak plus expected. So the black line adds on the planning reserve margin from SPP.
Which has been a big piece, a part of this, and we're one puzzle piece in the larger group. And I think we've all gotten more familiar with SPP over recent years as this resource adequacy has become a little bit more public and in the spotlight. So looking at our adequacy scenarios here, specifically for the summer, I see the green bar going up, I see the red bar coming in. 2029 is a little ways off, and we have load I'm sure is growing right now, and I can imagine those projected loads that want to come in are ready to, businesses want to come in and start operating as quick as possible. What is our situation between now and when we're able to get the plant at PRS constructed? How are we dealing with that?
So we continue to capitalize on opportunities for capacity purchases. And as you look at the graphic, wherever you see white space between the black line and the bars, that indicates that we've got some work to do to make sure that we have sufficient resources to meet the requirements in Southwest Power Pool. Not only our peak demand, but our peak demand plus the planning reserve margin. So we will continue to work on capacity purchases. We've been very successful with that so far.
And looking at this, the green, it starts at kind of a middle size. It increases as we get into 2029 even, and then once you get out a little farther to 2036, we're projecting it to be a little more minimal. All right, we talked about summer just briefly. The winter scenario is a little bit different than the summer. Can you just talk a little bit about the difference between how we're approaching the winter and the summer?
So on the requirement side, as you look at the graphic, you can see in the table there's some significant planning reserve requirements from SPP in the winter. That's a big change going up to 38% in 2029. That's a lot of capacity that we have to add for reserves. However, the flip side is on the load side, which is our winter load is much lower, peak load is much lower in the winter than it is in the summer. But I will say that the summer and winter are starting to converge when you look at the net.
Is the goal for this to eventually, we're installing the generation and we're not doing capacity purchases at some point? Can you kind of explain how we're using that as a tool, and what's the long-term plan for that?
A tool is a great way to describe it. Absolutely, in the long term, we want to have resources to serve our load. That doesn't mean if we have a great opportunity to have some type of capacity purchase that's a long-term capacity purchase and economically attractive, we won't take advantage of it. We certainly will, but for the most part, we want to have iron in the ground. It's been one of our long-term tenets at NPPD.
When we're looking at our capacity purchases, and again, the long-term goal of getting iron in the ground, is reliability a concern during that transition?
Oh, absolutely. So we have to have credited capacity, whether that's our own capacity or it's capacity we've purchased from others. And that does give us the reliability we need. And we do have the Southwest Power Pool integrated market from an energy standpoint. But without having our own resources, it does add risk with respect to our ability to hedge our load.
All right, I've asked you a lot of stuff. I got a few more for you, but when we're looking at projections, and we just talked about how difficult it is and how fast it can change when we looked at how this all began. When we're looking into the future and trying to meet this growing load, we can understand from the chart that just based on organic load growth, we need this new generation, especially Princeton Road Station. what's to say if our projected loads change drastically, if the loads don't come? How are we approaching that as a business and taking on these big projects?
Well, I think first of all, if you look at the graphic, it would indicate that we're building flexibility into our plan. Having shorter term capacity purchases allows us to get into a capacity purchase, and then when it's over, if we don't need to go further, it's done. So it drops off. We have the flexibility to be able to add generators at Beatrice. For example, we could add all three at once. We could add them one at a time. We can add them sooner. We can add them later. So we have that flexibility built into the plan. We've made sure that we haven't locked ourselves in there. So it gives us the ability to be agile as those changes occur. I will say though, for the Princeton Road Station, and I'll reiterate what you just said, we need that generation. We need that capacity. Even if we have nothing beyond organic load growth from this point forward, we need that facility.
This has been really good, really interesting and enlightening, and I'm sure there's more information people want to find, but this has been a great high-level look at this program, what our teams are facing and how we're trying to attack this new opportunity, challenge, whatever you want to call it. But thank you, Mick. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Is there anything else that we missed?
Oh, only thing I can think of, Grant, is if folks want to know more information, who should they reach out to? And they can certainly reach out to me anytime. I'm in the book. I'm online. So absolutely let me know. Jason Rosenkrantz is a great resource when we talk about the resource plans as well as our resource adequacy requirements. Nicole Sedlacek for if you have any kind of questions about what kind of loads coming into Nebraska, questions along those lines from an economic development standpoint. Art Weezy for the specific questions about the generation projects.